So my name is Noel from Switzerland. I work for Human Made. We are a WordPress agency. We do a lot of client work. It's just pretty fun, keeps us employed. We learn a lot from these guys. But at the same time, we do a lot of products. So on one side, we do Happy Tables, which is something you may have heard. And on the other, we do WP Remote, which some of you in here use too. To manage multiple WordPress installs. So pretty fun stuff. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is what we've learned building interfaces within WordPress. So that's something that's really something that I like to focus on. I think user experience within WordPress is something that out of the box is not always very functional to people. And yes, let's get started. So going back to the roots of what WordPress is, it's a writing platform, right? Blog posts, pages, all that kind of stuff we want people to write. But over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of great sort of other platforms coming out for writing. This is Ghost, it looks pretty nice. It's a Markdown editor. We all like Markdown here, I think, if this is a developer track. Here we have Subtle, which actually just redesigned, and also, you can see the whole writing goes away from this very sort of technical look to this distraction-free writing, this Zen writing. It's, this kind of cool stuff. Here we have Squarespace. Squarespace, an incredible CMS. They're able to pack so much stuff on that page, but at the same time, it feels like I actually want to write on this page, right? It says right here, and I know exactly what I need to do. And last but not least, we have Medium.com. Something again that's absolutely incredible because the only thing you can do here is just write. And saving the best for last, we have WordPress. So, what's going on here? What's the issue, right? Where did WordPress go wrong? Where did WordPress go wrong? Well, the simple answer is nowhere. WordPress is a tool. It's not a solution. Everything else that I showed you is more or less a solution. It's a hosted platform. Ghost is an exception, but everything else is catered to specific users. So what we need to do as developers, designers, whatever you are, at the end of the day, you have to solve problems for your clients, right? So we need to be able to take what we have in WordPress and mold it to the uses of our clients. Now, obviously, different clients have different budgets, so I'm going to go through a couple different techniques and things that we've done in the past that will hopefully help you, regardless of what the level you're at, push through and help your clients out. So how many people here deal with small business clients? And just a couple of you? Come on. Yeah, okay, a lot of you. Cool. So there's a couple little things we can do with small business clients. It doesn't have to take up a lot of your time. You don't need to spend an entire day coding just to do one little thing. I think you can, do a couple things that are quite impressive. When you first show WordPress to a client, you're obviously not going to show them the admin dashboard. This is pretty crazy. Or is it the admin? Yeah, it is. You're not going to show them admin. You're not going to give them that user role, right? You're going to say, okay, this is a small business client. I'll give them an author role, something like that, or maybe an editor. Already, you're making things look a lot simpler. But the thing is, with small businesses, a lot of them don't actually have posts. They have pages, right? So, we need to do something to switch that role around from using posts to using pages. And everything I'm going to show you today is actually really simple to implement. In this case, what I'm doing to get from posts to pages is just modify what the author role is. So in your code, you grab the author role, remove a capability or a set of capabilities. Here I'm going to show you just a couple lines. So I have the short links at the bottom, I have the full snippets. Because I don't want to do this, a whole development talk and show you code all day. So the short links at the bottom will actually give you the entire snippets that you can copy and paste into your code. It is not hacking WordPress or messing around with core. This is something that goes into a plugin file. You keep it safe. You're not interfering with WordPress updates and so on. But here's just an example where you can remove capabilities. In this case, edit post, delete post, add new posts, update posts, whatever. And then you add new capabilities of editing pages, updating pages, creating new pages, and so forth. So back to this, we're having something that looks pretty simple at this point. But how about we also take away media? Because they don't really know what to do in a media library. It's a bit complex, and I know it's gotten easier over the last couple of releases. But if you can make it look like this, how much simpler is that for your clients, right? What's the difference from going all the way from there to this when you're trying to teach them how to use WordPress? So what I've done here, I've also removed the dashboard. Yeah. So yeah, the dashboard sucks, right? There's nothing on there that your users can use. I mean, you can see the stuff behind, like it's comments, posts. I mean, if your client has 5 pages today, they probably have 5 pages next week. It's not going to change. But here it's pretty simple. Again, something to dump into your functions or into a separate plugin. Remove index.php as a dashboard. Remove the separator one, that's the little gap in between the dashboard and post. And then remove the media library through upload.php. And then we get something that's really, really simple. Now, the one thing you'll still notice on this image is that I'm still getting the dashboard when I log in, right? Which we don't want to show them. So the last thing we want to do is just redirect our users to post directly, or pages in this case, to essentially give them something that looks like this. So when they log in for the first time, they go right to their pages, and that's all they see. And that's, how much easier is that for them to try and figure out? You could spend an hour or 2 trying to train them, or you could spend 15 minutes to tell them, hey, click here and click there. So there's a lot of power that you can, use to mold WordPress into something that's much more simple for clients to use. And things like this, you can just package in a plugin that you keep for yourself and reuse across different clients. This is not that you have to rewrite this stuff every time. So yeah, compared to this, obviously it's quite a big change. So something else you can do, which is quite interesting, is to play around with copy. So when I say copy, I mean the writing, the words used within the dashboard. So does anybody know what these are? They're posts. This is the English the English word for post will generate this, if you do a Google English search. This is what posts are. I don't know what posts are in Czech, but maybe, you'll get some other kind of weird image. But, people don't know what posts are. Someone who's getting their first website are not going to know what posts are. So, maybe I'll say, okay, let's rename posts to something that makes a little bit more sense. How about we call it news, right? Because maybe that's what it is on their website. It's these little details that matter and that help them navigate in the right direction without having to call you every 20 minutes to try and figure something out. The more pleasant of a user experience you can give them, the more confident they'll become in doing their actions within the dashboard, so that they don't have that feeling they might break a website every 5 minutes. So change posts, it's actually just rewriting a ton of labels. It's nothing sexy. There's no crazy code here. It's all stuff that you hook in on an action. But yeah, it's really easy stuff. I'll also post the PDF to this after, so you guys don't have to scribble down the short links. So how many people have created custom post types here? That's it? Come on, cool. So custom post types. The typical way that a lot of developers create custom post types is they register a custom post type, they write a nice plugin for it, write a lot of good code, and they indent it correctly, and they do all this stuff according to best practices. And you get something like this. Let's say I've just registered a custom post type called live stream, for some kind of live blogging, thing that I want to do. And a live stream is almost like a post. It's almost like blogging, right? The difference is that there's no titles. You don't ever use titles for a live blog, you just have content. So all of a sudden, if I wanted to create this custom post type, I don't know where's the content. You know, I don't know what I wrote in each post because I can call each update whatever I wanted to, or just whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's not indicative of what the actual content is, right? Because live blogging just doesn't go down that route. So we are already with this default UI. Despite you as a developer writing great code, the user doesn't know what to do with this stuff because if they have 1,000 live blogging entries over 3 hours of a massive event, they're not going to know where to go and find this one post. So how about we just strip out the entire default UI? Let's just kick it out. There's no need for it, right? We can rewrite our own. It's not that hard. So how do I get to my own little hello world here? Well, for one, just knock out. There's two controls here when you register a custom post type. So you're only adding 2 more properties. One is saying show UI false. Pretty straightforward what that means. And the other is show nav menus false. So we've kicked it out of the left side, and we're not showing UI for it anymore. But what we're also going to do then is actually create a page. So we're going to register a page first, and then in that function, we're going to tell it which function is going to actually display code for that page. What's going to be on that page. So in this case, I have create live stream page, and this is a really hard function right here, but I think most of you guys will get it. This is how easy it is to create your own, custom post type UI. Obviously, you want to be able to, add fields, remove content, update posts, and all that kind of stuff. We'll get to that right now. So we have Hello World, but we want to get to something like this. So here, different than my previous look, where it was only showing the titles, now it only shows the content, because that's what live blogging is, right? So we're showing the content, it's all there, it's all on one screen. It makes a lot of sense to someone who would have to work in this every day or be at a large event, a large conference. But we can go a step further and say, why should they go to a separate screen to, add a post? Why don't they just add it up there? Enter your live stream update, then press publish. It's pretty easy, right? If you can create UI like this across your larger projects, then you're really helping your users out. You're adding a lot of value to them that in turn is adding value to you and the way that you build your clients. So without trying to make this too deadly, essentially what you want to do, a lot of you guys are already used to calling the query for showing posts, so that's pretty easy. But the actual process of creating a new post, let's say, isn't that crazy. All we want to do is create forms on that page, so HTML forms, and then capture the data from those forms every time, we want to capture the post data when someone clicks publish. And once we see that post data, we just use a function like WP insert post or WP update post or WP delete post. And these are really simple functions that are written in plain English and are really not that hard to understand if you are already registering custom post types. It's not that big of a step up. It's more, the biggest barrier here is not your coding abilities, it's your internal mental blocks in terms of what WordPress should look like for your clients. So I've added a simple example that looks just like this in the code that you guys can play around with. I think it's like 150 lines in total, so it's pretty small. It reads really well. But that would be, yes, that would be on the save CPT, I think. Yes. So to give you guys a bit of an example of how we've done this kind of stuff on a larger scale, this is what the old Happy Tables used to look like. So Happy Tables is one of our products where restaurants can create and manage their own websites. These are just this is all WordPress, right? You can see that there's a taxonomy for the actual menu category. Within that, there are menu items. Those are all custom post types. There's jQuery UI in the form of sortable, draggable, all that kind of stuff. It took me, once I had the idea for it, it took me a day to design and code up the front end, and then it took another developer a day to code up the back end, so that this all worked on Ajax and stuff. So this is a pretty extreme example, I'd like to say. So whatever simpler examples you can come up with, then it's obviously not going to take you that long. This is a really simple example, just to go back one step, where again sliders, slides, images, whatever. Why do you want to show the default custom post type UI if you can't see the images? So I don't know what the image looks like unless I click into it. And maybe you're using like the featured image within the post to try and store that. It's ugly, it's nasty, nobody wants to see it. Spend 4 hours to create something simple like this, where this is really simple stuff. You can literally use the UI or the code I showed you before, the snippets, to rework it into this in about an hour or two. So don't stop there. WordPress has a lot of there's a lot of core functionality like jQuery UI and all that kind of stuff. But you can come out and use different data displaying plugins that the various JavaScript community has to offer. List.js, great way to show a lot of data in tables on one go, and also filter it, sort it, and all that kind of stuff. So that don't feel restricted to using a certain prescribed way just because WordPress does it that way. So if we do take this example, and we had users that only want or used our live stream tool only to use this and nothing else, then why have admin at all? Why don't we just kick out admin? All we have to do is take the code I showed you before and put it on the front end. That's it. So a user never even has to log into WP admin. What's the point, right? This is a lot easier. And that's essentially what we've done with Happy Tables on a newer version now, on a much larger scale. This is all WordPress, but it is a custom theme that we've just reworked to be a different admin dashboard. So WP admin is gone, because once you try to do a certain amount of customization within WP admin, you'll start realizing there's a lot of walls, there's a lot of code, there's a lot of DOM that you can't move past. So you need to be able to, just start from scratch. And at that point, it took us a week to design and develop and release this. It was 3 of us, and we worked 80 hours that week, within 5 days. But we were really motivated because we had the idea and said, okay, let's do it. But that was the first time we did it, and then we did it for another client down the road, and it took us half the time. So it's there's definitely a lot of it is more mental than dev or code scale abilities. So yeah, beyond that, there's a lot of things that we need to be considerate of when we're trying to design UI stuff. And the best place to look is at other applications you see online. So forget Joomla, forget Drupal, forget looking at other CMSs. It's not worth it. Look at the best applications that are online today and take their ideas. Look at Basecamp has some of the best copy. And this is beyond the design. The words that they've chosen are just perfect for what you need to do. There's no intimidation here. You know exactly what your next action is supposed to be. You look at FreshBooks, which is an accounting tool. This is a tool we use to invoice our clients. Right off the bat, this is a pretty complex interface, but as soon as I hit this page, I already know what I need to do. I need to select the client for its invoice. That's the first thing I need to do. So you can use tooltips within your interface. You can use tooltips within the WordPress admin. That's no problem whatsoever. Again, Dribbble here, The UI is so clear in terms of what you need to do and what sort of size image you're supposed to plunk in there. It's so straightforward. And another great example here is Gecko Board. So this is an onboarding process. So let's say you have a massive client that has 1,000 users in your WP admin. Do you want to show an onboarding process that helps them go through different stuff? You can do that because all you need to do is just write a PHP conditional to check if a user has done something, and then show a green tick or a red X, whatever. But again, you're helping the user become more familiar with the tools that they're not scared at the beginning. And here at Squarespace, doing a great job of just giving you dummy content. So instead of showing you an empty website, building a new website from scratch is intimidating for someone who's never done it before. But if you give them plenty of dummy content or filler content right at the beginning, you can help them out quite a bit. You can do the same thing with your clients too. Obviously Lorem Ipsum and all that kind of stuff only goes so far, but you can come up with more creative ways to create that sort of content. Buffer, another great tool, which is used for scheduling tweets. There's two things here. They really want you to focus on the green buttons, obviously. So using the right sort of color choices, the right sort of wording here again is instrumental in what what you want your user to do and what sort of actions they're supposed to perform. In this case, Share Now and Buffer, both send out tweets, but Buffer is the one that is of value to them because that's the one that schedules a tweet. Zapier, another great tool that we use at HumanMade. They don't show you all the settings off the bat because there's so many settings you need to do. So you select one setting, and then it shows you the next setting to complete. So you're not intimidated by 20 fields or 20 options right at the beginning, but instead you're showing one and then another as soon as you complete it. So it's like a wizard. Again, you can build these things in WP Admin. You just need to think of ways to do it. Modals. I know a couple people use modals for plugins. Plugin developers do. Be careful with those. Modals are really good for information or announcements. They're not something that you should be using for core functionality or whatever you're trying to get users to do. In this case, Squarespace uses it very well just to highlight a new feature. And that's it. Cool. So if you have any questions, I'll be around tonight too. I know we're short on time. I actually do have 5 minutes for questions before I get kicked out. So thank you.
Say something a bit more about Ajax and admin?
So I'm not a developer, which should really say a lot in terms of how easy this stuff more or less is. So the Ajax stuff I showed you before was done by a very competent developer, and there's a lot of moving parts on that specific panel. But Ajax is, from my experience with it and the way I've used it for a couple simple things, it's quite straightforward. There's a lot of great tutorials and resources online that actually do all the right things in terms of telling you how to do it. I don't think you can go too wrong in the beginning. And beyond that, I can't help you. I'm just not that good. Thank you. No worries. Is that it? Brian?
You showed the UI before for a basic static page website. Have you ever considered removing the admin bar on the left-hand side and removing all those buttons at the top? Because when it's just the static page, there's only like 2 or 3 buttons there, and it seems like there's a lot of dead space down the left.
Which one? Was this one of the hack table slides? Or?
No, it was before that. It was a standard WordPress admin, but you ripped everything out bar the static pages.
Something like this?
Yeah, but when it only had pages and...
Oh, right. Sorry guys, a lot of slides. Like this?
Yeah, like that. No,
yeah.
putting it at the top would
Yeah, so that'd be-
ditch that whole file.
That'd be a really smart idea, actually. So, you know, that's a really solid idea. I think that would work well for a larger site if you plan on maintaining it. But otherwise, if you plan on using it as a plugin across, you know, all your client sites, you probably run into issues with subsequent WordPress updates. Depending on how you probably have to use jQuery or something
I
to
don't
move
think
around
so.
DOM.
I actually made the plugin which does exactly what you were demoing there
Yeah,
a long time ago.
right.
I don't know if it still works. I haven't checked it in
It
ages.
probably does.
I think so.
But
I was
moving
actually thinking
this
of-
stuff around would
I've
be the
actually
hard part.
I've actually been thinking for a while to move it all to the top.
Yeah, that would be the hard part because they often change the classes and ID names and stuff like that. They've changed it a couple times now.
I'll have a look. I didn't think it was that hard.
No, it's not hard to do. I'm just saying you would have to make sure that your updates are solid every time WordPress comes out for release. So, but yeah, you could do that in probably a couple hours. So make it look really nice. Challenge. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yes.
I consider there's a big value in simplifying the administration, right? But sometimes it's not just mental block to code it up. So can you recommend a plugin for simplifying the user interface?
Well, you see, that's kind of that kind of goes into that's maybe just trying to get a step closer. Or it's not really the solution in that respect, I think, because you're still looking for a tool to put on top of another tool. So you're trying to look for a plugin that goes on top of WordPress to try and, you know, simplify it further. Like, yeah, I see it. I don't know of any plugins myself. A lot of the code I've shown you is just pretty lightweight. You can probably, you know, dump it all in a single plugin that you create yourself. Register a plugin. You know, it's just the comments, right file, right folder, and dump it in there, and you'll see how easy it is just to run your own. You know?
The thing is that there are WordPress users that are not really developers, but more like team developers, coders. And for them, I find that very useful to be able to go and do stuff. So
Right.
I've used a few times admin UI plugin.
No, never have, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I maybe try to find a developer and to, you know, just be part of the team because they'll help you a lot. You know, right?
I was just gonna say, you can use something like the members plugin to remove a lot of that UI. you were just talking about.
Yeah. There's definitely plugins out there.
The only thing you can't do is remove the dashboard properly like you did.
Yeah.
But you can get to that point apart from removing the dashboard.
Nimbus.
Members, yeah.
There's definitely plugins out there. I can't vouch for their stability, their fluff, the amount of links they try to put in there, and all that kind of dirty stuff. Sometimes it just makes it dirtier, so who knows?
So sometimes it just seems to be quite hard to find what the developers.
Yes, that too. Ryan's a good one.
Thank you.
No worries. Cool. That's it then, I guess. Thank you very much again.